There's a moment, a single, frozen second between the sting of what hurt you and what you choose to do next. That's where true strength lies. You feel the pain, the injustice, your ego burns, screaming for a response. And almost always that response wants to be an attack. But there's wisdom in holding back. There's power in not striking back. Not because you're weak, but because you've learned that strength isn't loud. It's not revenge. It's not about having the last word. Retaliating is easy. Retaliating is human. But choosing not to retaliate, that's divine. Have you ever felt it? The weight in your chest, the urge to hit back, to prove your point, to hurt in return? It's natural. We've been conditioned from a young age to react, to show we won't tolerate disrespect, to refuse to be passive. But there's a rare kind of courage that few master, the courage to tame your own fire, not by suppressing yourself, but by mastering yourself. Carl Jung once wrote, "What irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." This is where not reacting becomes a tool for self-discovery. When you choose not to retaliate, you don't ignore your pain. You observe it. You notice what it stirs inside you, what old wound it reopens, what story it brings to the surface. And in doing so, you break free. Because the greatest prison is the one where someone else controls your emotions. The person who throws you off balance owns you. The one who makes you explode dominates you. But when you choose silence, or a measured response, or even distance, you reclaim the reins. Not retaliating isn't about the other person. It's about you. It's about refusing to let your peace depend on someone else's behavior. It's about treating your inner world as sacred. That's real strength. You can feel anger. You can crave justice. But retaliating rarely brings either. It only creates a hall of mirrors, where every attack sparks another, where no one listens and no one grows. The wisdom lies in breaking that cycle and turning inward. What part of you feels the need to prove something? What part of you still seeks validation through someone else's pain? Silence isn't weakness, it's mastery. It's the art of choosing your battles and, more importantly, your reactions. The wisdom of not retaliating begins in that moment, when you realize you could strike back, but choose not to, not out of fear, but out of maturity. This is just the surface. Let's go deeper. Think about this. Who's really in control? The one who shouts first? Who points the finger? Who insists on winning the argument? Or the one who, even with their blood boiling, chooses conscious silence? The one who sees the storm inside themselves and refuses to be swept away by it? The world has taught us to see retaliation as strength, as if striking back is some kind of inner justice, a way to right the wrong instantly. But does hurting someone back really restore balance? Or does it just widen the gap between two egos at war? When someone provokes you, they're testing you, sometimes without even realizing it, sometimes deliberately. But the test isn't about what they did, it's about what you'll do with it. Not reacting isn't apathy. It's not submission. It's knowing where you end and where the other person begins. You don't have to carry their pain as if it's yours. You don't have to play their emotional games just because they invited you to. Nietzsche wrote, "He who fights with monsters should take care not to become a monster himself." Every time we retaliate in kind, we edge closer to what hurt us. We become mirrors of what we despise. And, little by little, we lose ourselves. But the one who observes in silence gains something else. Time. Time to understand. Time to decide. Time to choose a path that isn't automatic, impulsive, or destructive. Not retaliating is an act of pause, of inner resistance, of wisdom forged in discomfort. Because yes, it will hurt. You'll feel the urge to prove you're right. You'll hear that inner voice saying, "Are you really going to let this slide?" And that's where true emotional mastery is born. It's not about suppressing what you feel. It's about choosing what to do with it. It's taking that anger, that hurt, that open wound, and turning it into clarity. The clarity that not every blow needs to be returned. Some just need to be observed and let go. Like a heavy cloud that doesn't deserve a home inside you. The person who doesn't react isn't weak. They're a master of themselves. And mastering yourself is the first step to transforming the world around you. There's a fleeting rush, almost intoxicating, when you retaliate. It's like a flame finding fuel. Your ego warms to it, feels like it's regained control. But it's an illusion, because what you gain through anger comes at a steep cost. The price is your peace. The price is your self-respect. How many times have you walked away from a fight feeling like you won, only to feel something inside you scratched? Your dignity, perhaps, or your calm, or that part of you that knew you could have chosen differently. Retaliating offers a false sense of strength, but true power is quiet, subtle, unshakable. You see it in the moments when the world tests you. People push your buttons, words cut deep, situations challenge your limits. Everything inside you wants to react, to match their energy, to prove you won't be hurt without a fight. But what if that's exactly what they expect? What if every provocation is an invitation to lose yourself? Here's the truth. When you retaliate, you level yourself to their playing field. Even if you're right, you step into their arena, and when you play by someone else's rules, you're no longer in control. Do you remember who you are? Or do you become a shadow of what hurt you? Marcus Aurelius said, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." That cuts deep, because it demands not just self-control, but identity, integrity. You have to know who you are to resist reacting as others expect. You have to hold fast to your values to avoid selling out for a hollow victory. And at that point, not reacting becomes revolutionary. Not a loud external revolution, but a profound shift from within. You step out of survival mode, out of autopilot, and into a sacred space of conscious choice. Not retaliating isn't weakness. It's breaking the cycle of repetition. It's refusing to perpetuate the patterns that hurt you. It's choosing not to be a puppet to fleeting emotions. When you choose not to retaliate, something aligns inside you. You feel the pain, but don't act on it. You see the attack, but don't confuse it with who you are. You witness the other person losing control, but choose to keep yours. That's not passivity, that's mastery. It's turning pain into presence, impulse into awareness, anger into clarity. And then something extraordinary happens. You start to become untouchable. Not in the sense of being numb, but in the sense of not losing yourself to every provocation. You grow stronger in silence, in discernment, in the ability to see without reacting, to listen without being poisoned. And that kind of strength, no one can take away. You build it, inside, day by day, choice by choice. So the next time someone tries to provoke you, ask yourself, do I really need to win this? Or can I simply walk away in peace? Because sometimes winning is choosing not to play. There's an invisible power in silence that unsettles those who thrive on noise. When you don't react as expected, when their provocation meets a void, something breaks, not in you, but in them. Silence teaches, not like a lecture, but like an absence that reveals. Those who expected war find peace, and they don't know what to do with it. Because silence holds up a mirror. It exposes the futility of their attack. It reveals the lack of control in those who shout to feel strong. It's disarming. And in that moment, the other person is forced to face themselves, to hear the echo of their own voice, to realize you won't be the stage for the drama they rehearsed. Have you ever noticed how some people need your reaction to feel validated? Without an audience, their performance falls apart, and you don't have to be part of it. The wisdom of not retaliating is also the wisdom of not feeding toxic patterns. Because some people thrive on conflict. They feed on tension. They only feel significant when someone responds to the chaos they create. But you're not obligated to be their backdrop. When you choose silence, you break the chain. And in doing so, you send a clear message. I don't dance to this tune. It's a way of teaching without words, of showing that your inner peace isn't for sale, that your energy won't be spent where nothing grows. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike your enemy." That carries a universe of meaning because retaliating makes you like them. It pulls you down. It lets them set the tone. But silence elevates. It demands presence, awareness, mastery. It's not avoidance. It's a declaration. I know who I am and I don't need to prove it to you. And often that's the most powerful response because it dismantles. At this point, not retaliating becomes a form of teaching, not through preaching, but through example. And that example lingers. It resonates. It stays. Maybe not in the moment, maybe not visibly, but deep down something is planted, something that might grow in time. And even if it doesn't, you know you've done your part. It's not about changing them. It's about not losing yourself in the attempt. Stay steadfast in your peace. Stay steadfast in your silence. It says more about you than any shout ever could. There's a point where silence transcends being just an emotional choice. It becomes something greater. When you choose not to retaliate, not out of pride or calculation, but because you understand life is bigger than every small battle, something awakens in you. You start to see the other person's aggression not as a personal attack, but as a reflection of their own pain. Their anger didn't start with you. It comes from stories that aren't yours, from old wounds, from needs you didn't create. And when you realize this, your perspective shifts. You stop seeing the other person as an enemy. You start to see a human being, confused, lost, perhaps afraid, and then silence becomes compassion. Not a compassion that diminishes you, but one that understands. Because the louder someone shouts, the deeper their desperation. The more they hurt, the more they've been hurt. At this point, not retaliating becomes an act of healing. For you, and for them. It's a gesture that breaks ancient patterns of pain, of revenge, of repetition. You don't perpetuate the cycle, you dissolve it. This is spirituality in action, philosophy embodied, living wisdom. Jesus said, if someone strikes you on the right cheek, turn to them the other also, not as a sign of submission, but as an act of transcendence. It's as if he's saying, I won't play this game. My integrity isn't for sale, no matter the provocation. It's easy to call this weakness when you're caught in the grip of ego, but the soul recognizes it. The soul feels it, and the soul knows there's more power in staying untainted. When you choose silence, you align with something greater than the conflict. You honor your peace, you honor your journey, you honor the noblest part of yourself. And that changes everything. At this level, not retaliating isn't a tactic. It's who you are. You don't act this way to strategize. You act this way because it's who you've become. And the more you practice this inner mastery, the stronger you feel. Not the strength that needs to defeat others, but the strength that has already conquered yourself. The true victory happens in the unseen. When you feel the urge to retaliate, what's really hurting? Is it the offense itself, or something older, deeper, more personal? The pain you feel is often just the tip of the iceberg. Beneath the anger, there are stories, scars, wounds that no one else sees but still throb when touched. And what the other person does often just brushes against those old wounds. They trigger something inside you, something buried, dormant, but unresolved. That's why it hurts so much. It's not just about their words, their look, their actions. It's about what those things represent to you. That's why retaliating feels so necessary, so justified. But here's the thing, when you strike back, you're not just responding to that person. You're responding to the child who was hurt, to the teenager who felt unheard, to the adult who learned to swallow pain till it overflowed. You're shouting for all those past versions of yourself. And in that moment, a conscious response is lost. Awareness fades. Clarity is swallowed by the need to protect yourself. But is attacking really the best defense? Is hurting someone else the only way to avoid being hurt? Have you ever paused to ask, Why does this affect me so much? Sometimes the answer is unsettling, because it's not about them, it's about you, your history, your insecurities, your unhealed wounds. It's hard to admit that, hard to see that we're often driven by emotional memories, not the reality of the moment. But it's also liberating, because when you understand what's at play, you can choose differently. You can breathe before reacting. You can look inward before pointing outward. You can hold your pain before turning it into a weapon. And in that act, you grow. You expand beyond the automatic cycle of stimulus and response. You break the chain of cause and effect that traps so many in repetitive patterns. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment." This is an invitation to responsibility. Not the weight of guilt, but the power of choice. You can't control what others do to you, but you can decide what it means. And, more importantly, what you do with it. The wisdom of not retaliating comes from this place, recognizing that your pain is real, but it doesn't need to be avenged. It needs to be understood, felt, healed. Retaliating is trying to make someone else feel your pain, but that never works. You don't teach through shouting, you teach through boundaries, through distance if necessary, through standing firm but without violence, and above all, through awareness. The awareness that you're not a prisoner of your wounds or of someone else's behavior. Origin of the urge to prove something to the world. You're free to feel and still choose not to hurt. Free to protect your integrity without destroying someone else's. Free to use your pain as a mirror. A teacher, not ammunition. That freedom is rare, but you can cultivate it. It starts with a pause, with an honest look inward, with the quiet decision to break the pattern of what's always been done. And when you do that, something shifts. You become less reactive, more present, less vulnerable, more whole, less predictable, more wise. Pain, when embraced, becomes a gateway to yourself, to a new way of being in the world, and not reacting is the step that opens that gateway. There's an invisible prison so many carry, the prison of needing to respond. Responding is our default, our defense, our way of proving we still exist in the conflict. But what if I told you that freedom lies in not responding, in the quiet act of refusing to be pulled in stepping away from the need to justify every feeling, in declining to fuel a fire that isn't yours, because retaliating is a contract, a silent agreement with pain. You accept the invitation to war, even if you don't want to. But the person who chooses not to respond refuses that contract. It's like saying, "I'm no longer a prisoner to your provocation." That's an act of immense courage. It's recognizing that your worth doesn't depend on being validated by others, or winning the argument, or having the last word. Your worth lies in the silence that speaks louder than 1,000 words. There's an almost sacred power in the pause, in choosing silence, in building your own peace. But it takes courage to face the restlessness in your chest, to feel the fire of anger burning without letting it consume you. Have you ever noticed how the need to retaliate sometimes hides a deeper fear? The fear of being invisible, the fear of being overpowered, the fear of being ignored. That urge to respond is an inner cry for recognition. But paradoxically, the more you fight to be seen, the more you lose yourself. Chosen silence is the path to rediscovery, a return to your own essence, your own truth. Nietzsche reminds us, he who fights with monsters should take care not to become a monster. Not retaliating is about preserving your humanity, about not surrendering to the shadow that wants to take over. Every time you choose not to respond, you strengthen the light within you. You step away from a futile battle and closer to what truly matters. This isn't about being passive, it's about being conscious, mastering the impulse, transforming what seems like weakness into strength. That strength comes from patience, from wisdom, from a deep understanding of what's worth your energy. And that understanding brings peace, not the fragile peace of avoidance, but the solid peace of inner mastery. And that peace, my friend, no one can take away. It's your invisible shield, your quiet fortress, your true victory. So when you feel the urge to retaliate, breathe, feel, wait, and remember, the wisdom of not retaliating is the freedom to be you, whole, unshaken, and untouchable.